All right, we're back when we talk about the Edmonton Oilers, still looking for their first win, heading to Los Angeles. That might be a little tough considering they're going to lose out on Teddy Purcell, Jordan Eberle, and Ryan Nugent-Hopkins, who, by the way, got into his first NHL fight. Well, didn't really look like much of a fight to me, but nevertheless, we discussed this just over the break, and you guys came out with some interesting points. I think it was just dead wrong for him to fight. I can understand in a playoff scenario because you got to get your team up for whatever reason, but there's plenty of reasons why you think this was just a dumb move or a careless move. Explain it.
You have a lead in the game. I understand he got a cheap shot, you know what, and he's upset about it. But you know what, you take a number, somebody on the bench takes a number, and it's a long season. We're here in October. You're going to play against Vancouver a whole bunch of times after that. Settle that score later. You had a lead, and you don't fight at that stage of the game. You don't give any opportunity for the other team to get something from that fight, and they did. They came back, they tied it up, and then the Oilers lost in overtime. So I think the question is why he is fighting at that stage of the game. And the second of all, they're so weak up the middle, and Nuge knows that, and all of a sudden he's on a lineup, whether it was from the hit or from the fight. Regardless of that, all of a sudden their weak part up the middle looks even weaker with him out of the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, there's guys on that team that should be doing that instead of him. He's not the one that should be doing it. And he's their first line center. And like we were talking about earlier, Draisaitl will be on their second line center. They don't have any depth at that position. So you would have been best served to stay on the ice and play instead of being on the penalty box for 5 minutes.
And he's had shoulder issues, which is a big thing.
The shoulders are one thing.
But yeah, you can understand. But to derail your season in the way the Oilers started, this just seems to be a bad omen, doesn't it?
Yeah, it's an inexperienced young kid making a stupid decision. And more than anything, shoulder injury, the other thing that happens when you fight and you're a skilled hockey player and you're fighting against whoever is your hands. You end up throwing a knuckle off a guy's helmet and you break your hand. If you're a goal scorer, you're done for a long time. So you cannot afford, I manage a hockey team and I see a skilled guy doing something like that and dropping his gloves with maybe a non-skilled player like him. The trade-off between the two, it's huge plus for Vancouver, a huge negative for the Oilers.
Okay, let's talk about surprises so far in the NHL. You have Duclair, a 19-year-old rookie with the New York Rangers, doing very well on the first line. He's been gradually getting minutes, and considering that you have a guy like Alain Vigneault, who's not necessarily big for rookies or big towards them, giving him those big minutes, he certainly played his way. There have been other examples. You look at Colorado starting off slow, but a huge win against Boston the other night. You look at other teams that started surprisingly well. The Nashville Predators, still undefeated after the first two games, and not only that, but looked good doing it. So guys, are there any surprises, individual players or teams that have kind of said, you know what, maybe they're a team to watch or a person to watch going throughout the season? I know it's only the first week or barely even into the first week, but still.
Yeah, we're only 3 or 4 games into the season. I don't know if they're surprised, but Minnesota looks awful good to me. I wouldn't be surprised to see that team stay where they are and be one of the top 2-3 teams in the Western Conference. They've added a few pieces to the puzzle, and they look awful strong.
You know what? Boston's struggling right now. It's early. I think they'll try to bounce back. Montreal had a couple of nice comebacks. I know they got blown away by Tampa Bay just the other night, but at the same time, Montreal has looked pretty good. PK has looked phenomenal. Up front, they look very strong. Price looks good. And the other ones, probably Nashville. The new coach, a couple of new players into the fold there. Nashville could be a team that could surprise a lot of people going down the road. And the other one that I kind of thought he would look good, and he has, is Verbata in Vancouver with the Sundins.
Yeah, he's done very well, and that's a great surprise, at least for their sake. How about this? Talk about surprises in the National Football League. The Dallas Cowboys, 5-1. Would you believe it? Considering I knew a lot of Cowboy fans said they'd be lucky to win 2 games. They were happy with a 2-14 season. Instead, they've actually tripled that output, almost quadrupled that. So obviously, Cowboy fans are very ecstatic. However, the shoe hasn't necessarily dropped just yet, because we know that they've been known to have those second half collapses. Nevertheless, you look at what Tony Romo did in Seattle, probably one of the noisiest stadiums, exercising those demons from 2007 after he fumbled the what would have been the game-winning field goal. Guys, do you think that Dallas and Tony Romo he didn't throw a pick either last night, or on Sunday. So you think about it, are the Dallas Cowboys a legit contender, or at least a team that could take the NFC East and maybe surprise a few teams down the road in the playoffs.
Well, you know what? It is October. They are, and it's a big win in Seattle, don't get me wrong. And there's still a lot of doubters out in Tony. And waiting for him to win in December, waiting for him to win in January, and leading the team into big games, because they're big games in December as you make a playoff push, and big games in January because they are the playoffs. So I think when he's winning in those 2 months, then he'll be an elite quarterback, and then Dallas will do exactly what everybody's hoping for them to do down in Texas.
Yeah, I mean, the guy's had some hard luck over the last few years, no doubt about it. He's a good quarterback. He just seems when it comes down to the clutch time, the big game when he needs to win, he just somehow finds a way to throw an interception. And I mean, it's repeated itself year after year after year with that guy. So like Greg said, I think we'll wait and see what happens in January.
But you have to at least be pleasantly surprised if you're Dallas, knowing that he's not just throwing the ball down deep. He's still doing that, but he's a lot smarter now. And I find that he's making those quick plays. And, of course...
he's got more weapons.
And it doesn't hurt when you have DeMarco Murray,
DeMarco
right?
Murray's a huge... I mean,
You know, the running back, the running game looks better than it has in a long time in Dallas, probably since
Tony
Emmett
Dorsett.
Smith or Tony Dorsett, you know. That's a long time. So I think their running game looks a lot better. And the other thing that you don't talk about is their defense. Their defense is lights out. And if your defense, look what Seattle did with their defense. So if their defense continues to get better and better each game out, and it's pretty good right now, they could be a big threat come December and
that's the
January.
big surprise in Dallas is the defense. They were thought to have probably one of the weakest defenses in the league going into the start of the season.
And they lost a lot, too.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, but they played well.
All right, guys, we're going to take another commercial break. When we return, we're going to have Over Under next.